Welcome to the Phonological Awareness intervention training for phonological delay. If you are on this training, you are likely working with a child with phonological delay. Children with phonological delay can say sounds on their own, but struggle to say them accurately in words. The errors they make are consistent and follows typical speech development, but the errors persist for longer than expected. That's why we call it delay. They usually have no oral motor difficulties. This means their tongue, lips and teeth move as expected, and there's no groping or dribbling present. Children with phonological delay are at risk of delayed literacy difficulties. Some common processes of phonological delay include weak syllable deletion. So this is where a child omits the syllable in a word. So for example, banana becomes nana. And final consonant deletion. This is where the child omits the final sound in a word. So for example, fork becomes for. There are other patterns common in much younger children too. These are assimilation and reduplication, but the ones on the slide are the ones that we tend to see in school-age children with phonological delay. Assimilation means a consonant sound starts to sound like another sound in a word. So, for example, bus becomes bub. And then reduplication means a complete or incomplete syllable is repeated. So, for example, the word bottle becomes baba. But both of these processes are expected to eliminate at 3 years old. So next we have cluster reduction. This is where a sound in a consonant blend is omitted. So for example, snail becomes nail. Cluster reduction can occur in the middle or at the end of the word too, and it affects spoken grammar more if it's at the end. So in the sentence, he walked to school becomes he walk to dool. And then stopping as well. So a long sound like s becomes short. So p, b, t. So for example, bus becomes butt. Next we have fronting. So this is when a back sound like a k or a g is produced further forward in the mouth towards the front, like or d. So for example, car becomes tar. And then voicing as well. So this is where a quiet sound like a p, t, k becomes loud, b, d, g. So for example, pig becomes big. Fronting can also include the sh sound, and this is replaced with a s. So often we see sheep becomes seep. Next we have deaffrication. So a ch or a j is produced as a sh or a j sound. So chair becomes share. The ZH sound, so the j is the S in measure, so measure. And then gliding as well, so replacing the r or l with a w or a y sound. So rabbit becomes wabbit. So this table shows phonological norms at what age. Most children have typically stopped doing the processes. So pupils starting school in reception should be 100% intelligible, even if some residual age appropriate patterns remain, so such as gliding, so the bottom one on the table, we would expect until age 6. So gliding is the r or the l to a w or a y. If children have a delay with their speech sounds, most of the time it is a phonological problem. They're mixing up in their heads with which sounds go into words. So if it's up to 6 months delay, we call that a mild phonological delay, but if it's 6 to 18 months of a delay, that's more moderate. We need to support them with their general phonological awareness skills. Some children may need more specific minimal pairs therapy if they're always substituting the same sounds in words. So for example, a k is always a t and a g is always a d. But then they can say the k and the g on their own in isolation. So phonological awareness skills include word awareness, rhyme awareness, syllable awareness, alliteration awareness, and phonemic awareness. So phonological awareness and phonics are not the same. Phonics involves looking at print and how sounds are written, as well as sounding out the sounds in print and then blending them to make a word. Whereas phonological awareness activities are spoken and they start before children have learned sound letter correspondence. So it's really important to get a good foundation in phonological awareness first before moving on to the phonics. There was a study at a school in Oxted in St Mary's that actually showed better outcomes for reading if longer was spent on phase 1 phonological awareness before phonics. So yeah, it's really important to get a good foundation in phonological awareness before moving on to the phonics learning. So phonological awareness is being able to reflect on the structure of an utterance, which is separate from its meaning. So what that means is being aware that it's made up of smaller segments. So sentences is breaking down into words, words into syllables, and then syllables into phonemes or sounds. So this visual links age to when the child should be developing that skill, and then how it links to phonics experience as well. So learning letters, we expect that by age 4 to 5, building sight vocabulary by age 5 to 6, and then developing decoding skills age 5.5 to 6. So these are some free interventions for phonological awareness. From September 2021, schools are not being advised to follow the letters and sounds, so the one on the left, rather other independently published phonics programs. However, the content is still really valid, especially for phonological awareness activities. The ultimate guide on the right, that's really useful. It's got lots of free resources for phonological awareness. It's free, you can just print it online, and it tells you exactly what to do in each section. There's lots of instructions and bits to print out. There's kind of separate stages. So stage 1 works on recognising that sentences are made up of individual words. And then this can be linked to colourful semantics if you're familiar with that. And then stage 2 works on more syllable awareness. So things like syllable clapping and syllable bubbles, that kind of thing. So have a look at this video just on the link below, on the YouTube link. It provides advice, ideas and resources for phonological awareness, and then we'll look at the ideas and resources in a bit more detail on the next few slides. So the next few slides are a print screen of ideas and resources from the video you've just watched. Some of the activities for word boundaries, as you can see on the slide. So the first one is around identifying words in a sentence with cubes. So again, this can be linked to colourful semantics if you're familiar. There's word jump, so the adult calls out the sentence and the child jumps in for each word. There's nursery rhyme, so taking it in turns to say each word of the rhyme. Lose a word, this is when the adult says a sentence and the child drops a word each time. And then duck, duck, goose, so you can tap a child on the head for each spoken word in the sentence. Activities for working on syllables. So there's word wall. This is sorting pictures into multisyllabic words. Asking the children to sort themselves by syllables in their first name. Using Lego to represent syllables. There's syllable bingo games and syllable clapping. These are really useful. Syllable hopscotch. So ask the child to jump to the number of syllables in the word they hear. For example, helicopter, the child jumps to number 4. And bean bags and hula hoops are really good visuals for syllable awareness as well. Next we have onset rhyme and rhyming. So rhyme bingo, where you match the rhyme words. There's rhyme bag, so rhyming with the objects that they pick. There's rhyme soup, so only rhyme items can be added. Pass the bean bag, so children have to say a rhyming word that begins with the starting sound that the adult chooses. Again, nursery rhymes are really useful, and riddles as well. So my word begins with a k and ends in ache. What is my word? Cake. Then for manipulating single sounds, so there's identification. So if your name begins with a t, line up. That would be really useful on the playground or at the end of the day. Identifying similar sounds in spoken words. There's feed the monster, so the monster only eats things that begin with the target sound. And then there's blending, which is the middle column, so using pictures for each phoneme. There's hare and the tortoise, so the teacher can be the tortoise and the children are the hares, and then they have to speed up the blending. And then lastly, segmentation. So beads are really useful to represent segments of words or cars in a car park, any type of visual that the child has an interest in, and then you just move the toy for every sound that they hear in the word. So manipulating single sounds. So there's deletion as well. So games like Monster Munch are really useful. So if a monster munches the t in cart, what word is left? Then in the middle column we've got addition. So addition bingo. So the target card could be an image of a cube of ice, and the child has to add a sound in. So for example, the in mice, and then they have to find the picture that matches. And then substitution, so using the children's names, we can take this from Sam and replace it with a h sound. What is the word now? Huh. So it doesn't have to be kind of a specific intervention where, you know, you take the children out of class. It can be incorporated throughout the school day, kind of in daily routines. So line up if you have 2 syllables in your name, line up if your name begins with a t, things like that. The video on the slide, so the Gruffalo, is really useful for phonological awareness. So obviously there's rhyme that would be useful, and then you could do things like what sounds can they hear at the beginning of words. So put your hands up when you hear a word beginning with a d, for example. So pupils with phonological delay may also benefit from minimal pairs therapy alongside phonological awareness support. Minimal pairs therapy is discussed in the minimal pairs training video. If you would like to watch that and are more interested, would like to know more about this. The SALT team work on phonological awareness if it's impacting on speech sounds. Otherwise, the STIPS team cover phonological awareness and kind of more literacy skills, so reading and writing. But the SALT team don't cover literacy. Thank you for watching Phonological Awareness for Phonological Delay. If you have any questions that have not been answered through this presentation, please contact your link therapist through your school and they will be able to help.